Hello. Stand here. Like any good story, our conversation today first needs to set the scene and introduce characters. I'm Kat in the trio of names, and together with my fantastic colleagues, Karen from Curtin and Heather from ANU, we're going to share with you a tale of digital dexterity, capability team, a league of champions, and the flourishing of communities of practice. Now, this isn't just a story about 3 people. It is a character list as long as a Harry Potter novel. Even the paper paired to this talk had 5 other authors and an admin support role involved. And here are the delightful headshots, which they'll be so pleased to hear about. Our paper is, of course, a must-read. It is a veritable edge-of-your-seat gripping narrative. And while we're going to touch on some of the main points of that paper, what we mostly want to explore with you are some subsequent critical reflections. So, pretty much 12 months ago, almost to the day, the CAUL Digital Dexterity program was officially launched at ALIA Online 2019. This satellite event was an all-day workshop, and people came to explore, play, create, and innovate together. And importantly, it also launched the DigiDext community of practice. And here's a spoiler. Well, a quick wrap-up of outcomes since that time. A Champions League has cohered that stretches from Perth to Wellington. There's a solid core to a wider community of academic librarians who are all interested in digital dexterity. And that same Champions League has progressed along a My DigiDex journey to create a robust digital dexterity framework for library professionals. So, how has this story had such lovely treasures as plot points? Partially, there was some decent planning. Partially, there was some agile decision-making, but mostly, this story is character-driven, and it's the individuals involved that have made it what it is. So, to continue to set the scene, we're going to talk about who the players are in this DigiDex realm.
Right, for those of you who are external to the academic library scene, or you may be international guests, you may not know about CAUL. And CAUL is the Council of University Librarians. It's our peak leadership organisation for university libraries in Australia. CAUL members are the university librarians or equivalent at the 39 institutions that have representation on Universities Australia, and the 8 members of the Council of New Zealand University Librarians, CONSL. So in 2018, CAUL established a digital dexterity program led by Carmel O'Sullivan, and at this time it was agreed that we need to focus on digital dexterity to establish best practice principles and create resources to support the development of digital capability for staff and students. The CAUL Digital Dexterity Program addressed this professional focus. Did I just say that? No, I've got the right one. On the digital capability by establishing 3 project teams tasked with developing resources that would provide a framework for the development of digital dexterity skills for students, tools to assist CAUL members to improve their capability in digital dexterity, and a strategy and means to engage with stakeholders and advocate on digital dexterity. Members of the 3 project teams were drawn from 14 institutions across Australia. It also involved consultation across the program with industry stakeholders. The project team were tasked with capability building, and we chose to explore a community of practice model for engagement.
So, who are the players and who's involved? Before we explain this diagram, we thought it'd be useful to just sort of be clear about what the project team meant when we're talking about a community of practice. So Vinger and Lave coined the term community of practice in 1991 and defined a community of practice as groups of people who share a common concern or a passion for something they do and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. And they also identified three kind of essential elements that need to be present for it to be a true community of practice, and that is a domain, which is a shared area of domain of interest, which in our case is very clear. It's around the area of digital dexterity. It needs a community. It needs people who come together to interact together, and it needs a practice. So it involves actually doing things, addressing problems, and working together in a sustained interaction. So we just wanted to set that as the context in which to understand the diagram that we came up with to represent how we see our community of practice. So the literature identifies three kind of elements that are really often key to successful communities of practice. One of them is the role of champions who form a core. Another one is having mentorship from within the sort of institutional, organisational sector. And a third one is having external or industry support. And in our case, all of those three things have been evident. So the way that we kind of conceptualise it is that CAUL as the mentorship and leadership organisational aspect, and CAVAL, which for those of you who don't know is an organisation that provides professional support to the whole library sector, kind of formed the bedrock and like a cradle in which the group of champions that we appointed or that we've got together as the core can sit within. And we also conveyed these sort of concentric circles that go out from there to incorporate that wider community of people and groups and smaller other communities of practice that are in some degree or another connected to the core group, all with kind of different levels of involvement and interaction. So I just want to talk a little bit now about who are the champions and how they're connecting together and operating as a group. So this animation that Kat put together really shows, we hope, shows the diversity and breadth of the people, the roles and the institutions that are involved in this community of practice. And I would like to talk a little bit about how they have been working together. So as we saw in the previous slide, the champions were really seen as a really important element in establishing the community of practice, and also to be able to maintain any momentum that was created as a result. Each university library was invited through the university librarian to nominate one champion, and in some cases two were nominated. We also provided documents that outlined what the champions would do and formulated a position description which made it clear what the role involved and what sort of time commitment could be expected. So the role of the champion was to support the development of staff digital dexterity within their own institutions, but also to communicate with the group of all of the other champions, to share resources, to share ideas, and also to work together on planning DigiDex events and work on individual projects. CAVAL was invited to be a partner to help create the community of practice, and together with the original working capability group, they organised a first meeting of the champions, and this happened in June 2019, so it's only 6 months ago really, at the IATL conference in Perth. It just was a really good opportunity. There was a lot of people in town, and we were able to sort of meet together in person, but also had plenty of people coming in via Zoom. And we established the structure around how it would operate, how we would communicate with each other, how often we would meet, that kind of thing. And then from there, the champions have been meeting monthly via Zoom, and from there, more subgroups have formed, more additional meetings, and so it has gone on, and the group has evolved together.
Okay, the outcomes we're going to share with you are both personal and professional. The most remarkable outcome is the way the champions have developed a sense of identity as a collective, working together. And as a group, there's a lot of energy and a lot of positivity, and we've been harvesting that ruthlessly. And when the group gets together at a meeting, as they did, and we're talking about that, Karen will talk about that in a moment, at Western Australia, it was certainly very, very obvious and evident in that meeting. There's a real sense of ownership within the group among the champions, and a sense of connection with each other beyond their personal institutions.
I just wanted to mention some of the really tangible outcomes too, because not only it's this sort of sense of identity, but we've really done some things. And one of them was to organise a satellite event that has been attached to this year's Vala. It was held on Monday, called Building Blocks for Digital Dexterity. It was a fantastic day of talks and workshops and so on. The group has also developed a framework for library professionals, so that's building on the original work that the group did in establishing a digital dexterity framework, so that's a resource now for library staff development. We've also started a group that is looking to set up a structure to share open resources. As well as that, there's been local events happening. Within individual organisations, champions are doing things, organising things. One example is, for example, at University of Wollongong, Christy Newton organised something called 12 Days of Digi-Dexmas. And we heard a whole range of these types of things, heard about them on Monday in the lightning talks. There's also been broader events. For example, in WA, we have a share case where university libraries get together to share their teaching and learning initiatives, and the WA champions got together to organise a presentation there to talk about the DigiDex project. And another example was the CAVAL Professional Development Interest Group, and they held a forum in July last year called Thriving in a Digital World, which was a whole day of sharing on digital dexterity initiatives happening. So we also wanted this to be a little bit reflective as well. I've had the privilege of being both in the original working group and a DigiDex champion for Curtin Library, and it's been an absolutely fantastic experience for me and incredibly valuable for my own professional development. It's been wonderful just being able to get to know and work with people who I normally would never encounter. I've been able to see how other academic libraries are doing things. I've been exposed to new ways of working, to seeing how people facilitate meetings, how they problem solve. And a lot of these things that I've witnessed, I've been able to take back to my own work situation. Initially, I was really quite unsure as to whether I'd be able to make a contribution, just finding myself, working with these amazing, incredibly capable people. But slowly, the relationships build over time, and I just sort of found ways that I was able to contribute, perhaps ways that were quite unexpected. So I think it's a matter of just being open and aware of opportunities and taking up those opportunities to contribute. One of the things that I love about being involved is that it really just does not feel like work. It's just so much fun to be part of. On Monday, we had a great talk by Kristen Wall-Peterson about communities of practice, and one of the questions that came up was, what is the difference between, you know, a project team and a community of practice? Because they're quite similar in some ways. But the purpose of a project team is really quite focused on the outcome of the goal. They get together to do a particular thing. But with the community of practice, although, you know, you do have goals and you have outcomes and things you're working toward, it is not the main focus. It's not really, it's the process itself that is the focus of the group, and it's about the learning that happens in the group. And I think that that's a really, really key difference. And it's actually what makes it seem like fun and not like work. And Heather, you've got some reflections.
Yes, I've got some feedback from the ANU champion. The ACT is a very small area, even though people talk about the Canberra bubble and they seem to think it spreads everywhere, but it doesn't. And so it's very good for our staff to be able to get out and get new experiences, and our Digi Dex champion considers it's been a very cool experience, and the opportunity to personally develop and also help with the organisation's development as well. But also the most important thing is about being able to connect outside of the silo that we actually work in. So giving people lots of opportunities to develop, lots of seeds are being sown, lots of ideas are taking off. They felt that they were invigorated when they attended the Zoom meetings, and has given them a bit more of an insight into the institutional needs as well, because they're moving out, as I said, outside of their own silo where they work and spreading across the organisation. I personally wanted just to reflect a little bit on the Sydney event that was alongside a satellite event to the 2019 ALIA conference that was held at UTS, and a bit like Karen, it changed the way that I looked at things. It was, you know, like opening up the third eye and just sort of taking away some layers and understanding a bit more. It was great that we could test the waters and do some exploration. In fact, Kat led one of the groups that we did, which was the creating works from an already written work, a black poetry. Is that what it's called? Yeah. No, black out poetry, sorry. So you're taking something that already exists and then you're blacking out words and then trying to create something that's meaningful out of that. And that was really good to sit down and make your mind work in a different way. And being part of all of that, we were in the storming phase of the community of practice.
I think we should go to the takeaways.
Yeah.
So we're just going to skip.
Okay, so in working with this team project and in exploring a community of practice model as something to use for capability development, the aspects that became apparent really early on was the immense value for individuals from a community of practice, whether it's in terms of learning, belonging, expertise recognised across divisions, transferable skills and connections. But it also has value in organisational terms. Forging trusted networks and communications across silos is absolutely priceless. And what was a key takeaway for me that became clear as we put this presentation together was that the capability project team had in fact organically developed as a community of practice as well. And we have some trusted relationships to continue working together, even though technically our project has come to an end.
Okay, so would we change anything if we had this chance again? Yes, I think we would. There was some confusion at the forming stage, a little bit through the storming stage as well. Getting through to the norming stage is good, but there were things like when the call out went for the champions, there was 2 months of radio silence, so that we should have picked up on earlier.
I think just to, for my key kind of like learning or takeaway was really experiencing the interplay between the structural elements of the community of practice and the actions of the people. And I think what was a really key to the success of that evolution was the way in which the group was facilitated by CAVAL. So Hugh Rundle, who's now at Trobe, was a fantastic facilitator for our group, and he was really able to get that right balance between providing some support but also being able to step back and be comfortable with creating space to allow the group time to think and to respond and to step into the space and make decisions and take ownership. So I think that there was a culture has been established which is flexible, it's open-ended, but it also allows space for uncertainty and failure and finding our way. It's a flat hierarchy, but yet natural leaders are emerging out of it. So it's wonderful.
And now to quickly bookend this session. What I would say is that the model of a community of practice that we developed and the frameworks that emerged and some of the shared resources that have already been circulated have relevance not just for academic libraries, but for the wider glamour sector. And if you were interested in either connecting to the My DigiDex community, whether it's to join or just talk about things, there's 3 ways that you can do so, which is 1, signing up on an email list for updates and conversation. The second is find a Digital Dexterity Champion and have a conversation. And the third is connecting with the champion at your own institution. And that is the end of our tale. Thank you very much.
Questions?
Thank you to all 3 of you. Are there any questions? Just put up your hand or come down to the front. I have a question. Could one of you please tell me a little bit about the characteristics of the champion? What makes a good DigiDex champion?
I think, indeed, in fact, yes, you should actually speak. What is a clear characteristic of a Digital Dex champion is a playful, exploratory nature. To be able to comfortably move in uncertain territory, because when you're looking at emerging technology or the way that we're functioning in a digital world, it's very fluid. And if you can come to that with a sense of being okay with failure, being okay to try something new, then you have what it takes to be a digital dexterity champion.
So the question was, any difficulties internally to the institution with acceptance of the digital dexterity and how to move forward on that?
Well, yes, definitely. It's a very common experience, I think, across. I've also we experienced it ourselves, but also I've heard stories of, it's similar stories. So. What can you do? I think it's just about establishing relationships, and we're doing things in our own institutions to get people together. I know that the project I'm personally involved in is trying to simplify things down to make them not threatening, to sort of translate it into very accessible, and look, come along and just give it a go. It doesn't matter if you fail. Failure's fine. We're all just learning together when we've got things that we can share. So I think it's just creating a culture of that it's okay not to know.
I would add one thing to that, which is that sometimes you need time to take on new things, so you need to allow people space to step away if it's not right for them at that time, and then provide space for them to come back if they want to. I think we don't all have to be in that space together at the same time.
And another thing that I would add would be that it's been a space where failure has been tolerated. So you're actually asking people to explore, to expand, and to experiment. And if you failed, okay, that's okay, move on from that. Someone might pick up another part of that project, or you just move to another area, as Kat said. Yeah.
Hi. I just had a question about where to next. So are you considering this an iterative process? Have you got a plan for sort of the next stage of this community of practice?
Oh my gosh, there is a plan and there's not a plan at the same time. The design of a community of practice is such that the people within need to sustain. So whilst there has been the scaffold or cradle, that will slowly fade over 2020, and it has to then be driven by the community itself. So the champions hopefully will be the ones to step into that space and roll with it. But again, with a community of practice, you also have to accept that sometimes they fade away. And the value is sometimes in the learning you've had up until the point that it disappears.
Having said that, it isn't going to fade away because because I think they've already started planning another satellite event for ALIA Online next year. And there's a resource sharing group that is sort of just getting underway. So there are projects, and I'm sure that, because it's fairly open-ended and flexible, that all sorts of other sort of ideas are going to emerge that we don't even know about yet. So stay tuned.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and those good questions. Let's thank the League of Champions.